Okay, let's have a look at this essay on art and music. Okay, first of all, I want to say there are actually some mistakes in the actual title, in the essay title. So I'm not sure where you got this title from. So we're going to start with that. In some countries today, there is an attitude that anyone can do it in the arts. Okay, what you'd actually say is that anyone can make it. The expression is to make it. So anyone can make it in the arts, comma, music. Oh no, okay, in the arts, no, hyphen is fine. Music, literature, acting, art. Etc. is not acceptable in a formal essay, so it shouldn't really be in a title either. So you should have just had acting and art, full stop. Okay, the rest is fine. Okay, so let's start with the actual essay. Gone are the days when artists like writers, musicians, painters and actors were celebrated for their talents. It's a very general statement that maybe you could soften it a little bit by saying were celebrated simply for their talents. Because of course we still have some artists celebrated for their talents, so do avoid overgeneralizations in an essay. Okay. However, talented people these days are losing their prominence in their domains. Okay, I wouldn't use the word domains here. You could talk about in their fields. In their field, in their creative fields. Okay, and now the last part of your sentence, I actually don't understand what you're trying to say. You say due to generalization in every field. I don't know what you mean there. So you're going to have to clarify that. I'm wondering if you mean they're losing their prominence due to social media or widespread talent shows, or whatever the reason is, but you need to clarify. Generalization doesn't make any sense in this sentence. Okay, this approach is leading to, you have to delete the, is leading to people with no exceptional talent gaining more recognition and popularity. Okay. I totally disagree with this view. Now, this sentence is very ambiguous. Do you disagree with, what do you disagree with? Do you disagree with, it's really not clear. You're going to have to clarify. Be very careful of this. The thesis statement is absolutely essential to a good essay, and it has to be very clear. So at this point, you need to make sure your viewpoint is clear. So saying I totally disagree with this view, because your previous statement is simply saying more untalented people are becoming famous or popular. So what you mean is you disagree with this situation, not view, because that's not a viewpoint, that's actually a statement. And that's why this sentence is so unclear. Do you disagree with the fact that untalented people are becoming famous? Or do you disagree that that talent is not being appreciated anymore? You see, it's not clear because you're disagreeing with a statement rather than a viewpoint with this sentence. So what you need to do here is give a very, very clear thesis statement. You do give a clearer viewpoint in your conclusion. So I'm going to look at your conclusion now and see if we can put that into your introduction as well. Okay, you're saying that artists are not replaceable and that they are unique. Okay, but actually that isn't even answering the question as well. That's the other issue we have here. Think about what the question is here. So we've got, as a result, people with no talent become famous and genuine talent is not valued and appreciated. So the question is, do you agree that people with general talent are no longer valued and appreciated? That's the actual question. And And so you need to give a viewpoint on that. So my main issue with this essay is you haven't really answered the question clearly. You haven't provided a clear thesis statement in your introduction. So that is actually fundamental to a good essay. So please be careful of that. And of course, in the IELTS marking criteria, you get marks for task fulfillment. And in an essay, that is very much about answering the question. So please be clear on the question first of all. All right, let's move on to the next statement. Okay, we'll just finish your introduction. This essay will analyse this statement and come up with examples from the real world to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, because you're not giving any viewpoint there, so as I say, you needed to give it before. Okay, firstly, simply because skills can be imbibed. Imbibed is not the right word. Be careful of your dictionary work. I strongly recommend using a English dictionary. You could say simply because skills can be learnt with practice, or you could say skills can be acquired. That would be a nice word here. We acquire skills. So simply because skills can be acquired with practice and precision, it is true that it does not take time these days to replace one talent with another. Now again, I don't find that the meaning of this sentence very clear, and it seems quite contradictory to me. First of all, you're saying it takes time to acquire a skill, which it does. And then you're saying it is true it does not take time these days to replace one talent with another, which seems to contradict what you've just said in the first part of your sentence. Do be careful to follow through your ideas logically. Okay, this is rightly said for the fields such as engineering or accountancy, where one can be trained to perform certain tasks which demand no creativity in a prescribed way. Okay, for example, if a person is taught how to manage the accounts, they can easily follow the steps and maintain the records. Okay. I would take issue here a little bit. You're suggesting that anyone can study engineering, and I'm not sure. I think it does engineering does require certain aptitude, and even accountancy probably does require some skills with numeracy. So I'm not sure that I find this argument convincing. But I do understand what you're saying, which is good. Therefore, it's conclusively clear that this run-of-the-mill attitude, okay, run-of-the-mill is not the correct phrase to use here. And I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say. So it's conclusively clear that this run-of-the-mill attitude is quite apparent in non-creative professions. Do you mean down-to-earth attitude or practical approach? Something like that would make sense here, I think. You could say this practical approach is quite apparent in non-creative professions. Okay. However, there is ample evidence that supports that creative minds with inherent talents can never be undervalued, even though there are people who can sing, dance, act, and write as well. You need an adverb there, as right as well as the original. You probably have to say as well as the original artist. Now here again, just to make this sentence sound a bit more logical, you'd say there's ample evidence. I would say you could make this short. Instead of saying that supports that, you could just say there's ample evidence to show that creative minds are not usually undervalued. Why I want you to say that? Because that just makes more sense, and also it's better to be more cautious in an essay instead of saying never, because sometimes people are undervalued, so you have to be more cautious. So are not usually undervalued. Okay, the rest is fine. This is largely because they have a vision to look at things from different perspectives, which cannot be imitated even if people strive hard to achieve mastery over it. Okay. For example, William Shakespeare, the greatest playwright, so not playwriter, so that's the special word playwright, and it's spelled Playwright, and it's one word. So the greatest playwright, poet and actor of all time, comma, is known for his extraordinary works all around the world. That's fine. Likewise, born musician and singer. I don't know what you mean, born musician. You mean he was born a musician, or you mean maybe a natural musician? And singer A.R. Rahman is famous in India for the magic and vision his music brings to the listeners. Okay, that's good. Undoubtedly, both are prominent artists and are recognised for their calibre. I wouldn't use calibre here. I'd say are recognised for their talent, or for their talents. Are recognised for their artistic creativity, or something like that, or recognised for their originality. But I think you mean talent here. Hence, an artist's unique selling proposition is something which differentiates him from other people with ordinary abilities. Okay, that's fine. To conclude, I firmly believe that no artist is replaceable. Okay. The kind of innovation and expression that they bring to their work can never be reproduced by any other person, and their unprecedented work, I wouldn't use the word unprecedented here, you could say their unique work, because you've mentioned originality there, so you could have original work or unique, but unique would avoid the repetition. Their unique work will continue to speak for itself and gain laurels for its originality. That's fine. Okay. Alright, I think as I said before, some of my main issue with this essay actually is the lack of clarity in the introduction. There is the odd sentence which doesn't follow through logically. For example, in your paragraph, firstly, simply because skills can be imbibed with practice and precision. This sentence doesn't follow through. The second part does not connect logically with the first part. So do be careful to follow through with your ideas. Work on making sure your thesis statement is really clear, so then we know exactly, we need to know what your argument is from the introduction. Okay. By the end of the introduction, it should be absolutely clear to us the direction your essay is going to take, and then you support it with evidence. Also, I think in this case, I'm not convinced you've actually answered the right question. So I think you need to really think about what the question is asking. Okay, because what you've argued throughout your essay, which is a good point, is that artists, great artists and creative artists will always be unique and special, and that's fine, that's a fine argument. But the question is, if you look back at the question, people with no talent become famous, and genuine talent is not valued and appreciated. So, okay, yes, you have argued that general talent is valued and appreciated, but you need to make it clear whether you agree, to what extent you agree. Okay, all right. Let's move on to. Oh no, you only have one essay today. Okay, so okay, overall good effort. Okay, finally, I'd just like to address a couple of your questions. You have asked in your letter about the use of articles with words like world and society. Okay, well, society, if you're talking about society in general, which probably most of the time you would be, then there is no article. So you would just say, for example, society is society. So there's no need for an article. But if you want to talk about a very specific kind of society, and you define that particular society, for example, the society in which we live today. So we're giving a definition of society. We're talking about modern society there. Then you can use an article. Okay. Now the word world is a little bit different because we, as you know, if you're talking about one single object like the world, the earth, the sun, the moon, the sky, so any singular object, you always will have a the. So most of the time you're talking about the world, so you'll use the world, the. You need a definite article before world. You may see a few exceptions. For example, we live in a world where. Now that's slightly different. It's not talking about the world, the planet itself. It's giving a description of a kind of world that we live in, and there you won't have an article because you're not talking about just the planet, the Earth. Okay. So yes, so words like the world fall into the category of single items, like the sky. We also say the floor, the ceiling, and for other items, or unique or singular items, the sun, the moon. Okay. And your final question was the use of whether we say 60% people or 60% of people. It absolutely should be 60% of people. Okay, so I hope that's answered your questions, and that's the end of this recording.